Germany, it appears, is at a boiling point, and that's not an understatement. This is an article from express.co.uk, and it says Germany at boiling point. That's the headline. Furious mob takes to streets hunting and attacking migrants. So apparently, there are some patriots still left in Germany, and they're not real happy with their country being overrun by Islamic insurgents because even though I can't read their minds, I'm thinking that what they're probably thinking is they are destroying our culture for our generation and for every generation to come forever. And if they don't take a stand now, it's over. It's just done. Gone forever. According to express.co.uk, which is typically a fairly good publication, along the lines of accuracy and dependency and not being painfully biased in favor of globalism. The Express says this: a mob of up to 50 stone-throwing neo-Nazis. Two questions come to mind. Number one, they must have got the stones from the Muslims, because Muslims somehow, somewhere, always come up with stones to throw. Secondly, I wonder, how do they know they're neo-Nazis? Did they ask him, excuse me, sir, are you a neo-Nazi? Yes, I am. Okay, and then he throws a rock at him. Anyhow, these stone-throwing neo-Nazis went hunting for migrants in the eastern German city of Bautzen yesterday, in a repeat of scenes which played out there 2 months ago. So apparently this is an ongoing problem in eastern part of Germany. Two refugees fled for their lives from the right-wingers who screamed insults and threats after them. Police were out in force. Okay, I got to stop because a thought came to my mind. What is wrong with the cultural Marxism media, the far-left media? I thought they were brainwashing all these people. Apparently, somebody's not doing their job. So they need to fire the folks who are in charge of propaganda, convincing young Germans that they're supposed to give their country away to Muslims and globalists. The article goes on and it says, two refugees fled for their lives. Police were called out in force at the time of the confrontation, but apparently did not act until the refugees began to run from the mob who had gathered at the city's Holz Market. I don't know what a Holz Market is, but I'm guessing it's a market. One of the asylum seekers was hit by a bicycle ridden by one of the pursuers and suffered a cut from a stone which hit him. Poor migrants. Boy, I feel so sorry for these Muslims, because, they've only blown up, they've only committed, 29,500 plus terror attacks since 9/11, 2001. How dare you hit him in the head with a rock? Police rescued a second youth and took him away in a patrol car. So the cops are having to protect the Muslims from Germans. I'm wondering if they're getting the message that the German men aren't going to stand back and do nothing while they rape and molest women in mobs. I don't think they're smart enough to get that message. So the answer is probably not. So I think we're going to see a lot more of this in the weeks and months and years and centuries to come. The town has had a nightly curfew for unaccompanied minor refugees since the violent events of mid-September when nearly 80 neo-Nazis, again, how do they know they're neo-Nazis? How do they know? Chased 19 asylum seekers. If they were asylum sinkers, they never would have made it across the Mediterranean. They're asylum seekers. They chased 19 asylum seekers through the streets after exchanging insults in a main square. So obviously they're neo-Nazis. Now, when Muslims attack white people, they're not extremists. They're just, we don't know, because when that happens, the media doesn't like to talk about it. Even though we know there have been over 29,500 terrorist attacks committed by Muslims since 9/11, but the media doesn't like to talk about it. This time, the far-right opponents of refugees took to cars and bikes to chase the migrants who told police they genuinely felt in fear for their lives, assuming they speak German, I guess. Like the previous incident, the confrontation escalated after both groups exchanged verbal insults. Typically what happens, my experience has been, that the so-called neo-Nazis are actually patriots who were attacked by Muslims, and they had the audacity to defend themselves. That's my guess. I don't know. I wasn't there. But my experience is that's usually the way it works. The incident has highlighted once again the seething resentment that the far right has for refugees. So it's the far right's fault, who are spread out in accommodation centers across the country. That's the refugees, not the far right extremist Nazi bad guys. 1 week after the initial incident in Bautzen, neo-Nazi youths shouted "Foreigners out," beat up an elderly man in the town. The 72-year-old German citizen with Algerian roots was set upon by thugs who punched him to the ground. So they call him a German even though he is Algerian. That's what they're doing. They're trying to confuse us. They're saying, look, Germany has no history. It has no culture. So anybody can be a German. And some of us are actually stupid enough to believe that. I just don't happen to be one of them. So anywho, as far as beating up 72-year-old people, regardless of who they are, I think I would be against that. But I also know the media tells us what they want us to know and what they don't want us to know. They lie to us by omission. They just don't tell us. They hurled racial epithets at him before fleeing and have so far not been caught. So once again, how do they know they're neo-Nazis? If they haven't caught them, how do they know who they are? Do they have neo-Nazi tattooed on their forehead? Or maybe just scrawled on there with a magic marker? Were they wearing Nazi armbands? How do they know? In February, a cheering crowd was seen outside a burning asylum center, asylum-seeking shelter in Bautzen, clapping and shouting, "Good, that's up in flames." What's wrong with that? People defending their country, that's a bad thing? I don't get this. Now, I don't like beating up old people. In fact, I don't like beating up anybody, but sometimes you have to defend yourself. And I'm kind of sure the old guy probably didn't attack him, even though who knows, maybe he did. That same weekend, a video emerged of neo-Nazis. How do they know they're neo-Nazis? I'm going to say that every time. How do they know they're neo-Nazis? Because they keep saying it over and over and over again. The same weekend, a video emerged of neo-Nazis intimidating refugee children, preventing them from getting off a bus to get to another shelter in Klausnitz. Okay, folks, I'm telling you, you Muslim migrants who are really insurgents, you probably ought not to come to Germany, because if you do, they're going to beat you up. So just stay home where you are. You know, they keep repeating this myth. I'm talking about the globalist media. Keeps repeating this myth that Muslims are fleeing violence in the Middle East, and that's why we should let them in Europe and the United States and Canada, wherever they happen to be going. Let them in as asylum seekers, as refugees from violence. Folks, wherever these people go, they bring violence with them. If they're not fighting each other, they're provoking it. Bautzen Mayor Alexander Ahrens met members of far-right groups in October in a bid to try to learn their motivation for the violence. I'll tell you what their motivation is. They're fed up watching their culture being destroyed by Islamic insurgency, which is brought on by cultural Marxism that wants to see Western civilization destroyed because Western people are too prosperous. And that is anathema to Marxism. You know, we have this third world economy and we have prosperous Western nations. Marxist doesn't like that because they want us all to be equally broke. How to get that done? Simple. Open the borders to Europe and let them all in. Next thing you know, the whole world is a third world. Except, of course, for the Marxist elite. And they're special. So they're not going to be a part of the third world. I was going to mention George Clooney, but I decided not to because, that would not be fair. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. That always helps because it tells YouTube that people are engaged. Well, when you give it a thumb down, it tells YouTube that people are engaged, so that actually helps. But we prefer thumbs up, obviously. Be sure that you share this video on social media. There's a little button beneath me somewhere where you click on that and you can share it on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Instagram. We'd like to know what you think about this. Tell everybody in the comment section. And if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, we're growing by leaps and bounds, and here is your opportunity to be a part of one of those leaps or bounds. So in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see a little green button that says subscribe. So just click on that, and you can be one of our newest subscribers.
Click the red button to subscribe.